let's talk about Marvel Animation. So, after last week's show, we of course had a few little pieces of info sprinkle out in regards to Marvel's What If, and then we got the shake-up, the big change-up that's happening on Disney Plus in regards to Marvel Studios animation and the head of Disney Plus content, which Kevin Feige is still in charge of Marvel Studios, but he has Brad Winderbaum now, who works alongside of him, doing all the animation stuff and also co-heading Disney Plus streaming content. So this guy has been with Kevin Feige for, well, since literally the beginning. He's been there since the beginning. So he knows how Kevin Feige works. They know what they're doing. He's been involved with What If, as they revealed, since the beginning of its concept. He was involved with Ragnarok. That was kind of his bigger push to production side of things. So I'm honestly okay with this, especially that he was like, well, thanks for the good response to What If, because we're going to have a lot more animation coming forward, from me. So, I mean, I'm excited by this. What's your take on this, Mitch? Let's go with you first.
This is essentially just making Marvel entertainment again.
Yep.
They absorbed the whole Jeff Loeb side to essentially reboot it.
Yeah.
Because you need the two divisions really.
Rebrand it.
Yeah.
Oh, rebrand it, reboot it, like whatever word you want to use.
Yeah.
If it begins with a re, you're fine.
Yeah.
They're basically. Yeah. It's just the whole, get rid of everything. Then we have our own stuff now. It's not under Ike. It's not under Loeb. It's their own thing now. Obviously more connected.
I was going to say, it's directly now talking to Kevin Feige instead of going behind his back and being like, we're going to use this character and now you can't, and sell the rights to Netflix because you can't stop us. Like, it's not that type of deal, which I think this is, in my opinion, this is exciting. I mean, Mitch, you were kind of leaning on that too. So what do you think as the bigger picture here?
I think you're about to get an explosion of animated content, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They weren't ever just going to do a What If. We've spoken about it a couple of times in here, but no, I think it's more just a case of you're going to get a lot more of what you've got now. Like, we've got a ton of stuff now, but you've got two people working everything.
Yeah.
The load is stretched.
Like, I would expect you'll see a lot more animation styles and stuff akin to what we saw with the preview for the new Star Wars anthology, where you had a whole bunch of different studios.
I personally wouldn't bank on that.
You think they're going to use the same animation style for everything?
Yeah.
Oh.
You look at Star Wars. Star Wars, literally, apart from Vision being the exception, everything is the same. I think.
And that, depending on the series, to me it varies on the quality, because some of it's just oof, while the other ones are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be shocked if they're directly connected to the MCU, like part of What If and stuff, they keep the same animation. But if it's more experimental, like they're like, what if we do our own new Spider-Man cartoon that's not connected to everything? Then that's probably going to be a different animation style just to set it apart. Like, you know what I mean? For continuity's sake, just like.
I mean, it depends, because let's be honest, they're going to have their own vision.
Yeah,
visions.
They are.
You're going to get like your anime studio take on Marvel. The Star Wars visions, they said it's not beholden to the timeline. It doesn't have to be canon. Doesn't mean it's not. Doesn't mean it is. It all depends on what the creators kind of went into it. So I think that's the place where that's where you get your different animation styles. But I think for the most part, it's all going to be like What If.
Plus, now, you bring up the canon thing. It's like, well, even if it's not canon, if it's well enough received, they can be like, well.
yeah, exactly.
It is now. Oh, okay. I mean, kind of like what you hinted at there. Tristan, what's your bigger take on this as well? Like, what do you think, what do you make of this? What do you think is sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, it's just you get more animation. We'll have actual, like I said before with other talks about this topic, where you'll get more animation that has more in-depth storytelling, and people, well, we still see it today where people think, it's animation, it's not really going to matter, and there's no, overarching subplots, and it's not going to be as deep. It's just going to be like, your villain of the week, which even in animation, you can have really deep stories, and it doesn't have to be, it needs to be rated R, and you need to see blood and all that. It's you don't really need like that just to tell a mature story.
True.
Like you can, like if you want to go back to some of the or like some animation that had like really mature storytelling or had some deep storytelling, I would go back to one of the ones that just popped in my head is like the original Avatar series where it had really meaningful stories and they rarely ever showed blood.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I agree with you with that. Like times are changing, and I think that's also something that I would like to see, like maybe 90-minute animated films again from Marvel.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Like,
I mean, times are changing, but people are still reluctant to see animation more than just for kids because they like the rest of the industry has already moved past that, and they just see it as another vehicle to tell stories that you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell in live action.
It's like video games. 20 years ago, if you were to tell somebody in 15 years there's going to be this game called The Last of Us, and it's going to be one of the best told stories in any medium, they'd be like, a video game? No. Like, it's you got to change the perception, and I think people will eventually start to understand you can do it in animation because there is great examples of it. So, I mean, yeah, I get some people's, reluctance, but it is there. Now, I do also want to just kind of roll this into this topic as well. At the same time, because recently FX and Hulu have been talking about all their projects, like the Alien series and all that. And the head of Hulu content was asked about Marvel and losing all the projects. And he said that they're actively talking to Disney and all their partners, including Marvel, for content. So it makes me think that maybe we could see something that's like, hey, look, if we really need to expand more, like maybe more MODOK. It doesn't fit the Disney Plus hole, but it can fit over here. I think they're willing to do it. So I think we could see a realistic future where it's like, Hulu has its own little thing going on over here as well. It's not integral to everything, but they can be more experimental. I hope at least.
Watch Hulu get that Deadpool show back.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
The Donald Glover one?
Exactly where I was going with this. I was like, I think I get what they're saying, because they said they want to produce that show, but they couldn't do it at the time because of the changing of the license and what it was tied up with. So it's got to be that show. I'm convinced. Like, come on. So
would you put like an Earth's Mightiest Heroes revival on Disney Plus or Hulu? You don't know on Disney Plus.
I would say you would do Disney Plus for that, right? But where do you take Spectacular Spider-Man?
Just throw it
in your dreams.
Okay, that's exactly where it's going to stay, because that's exactly where they're going to go with it.
Because both sides are not going to have an agreement to anything.
I would say you never get Spectacular back, so let it go. Forget about it.
That thing has the chances are so low you can't even chart it. That's how bad it is. So it's like, yeah. Unfortunately, though, because that'd be great, but don't hold your breath. So yeah, I think we're all in agreement. This animation expansion, it's awesome. Just more content. And if you look at officially starting with this winter and rolling into next year, if you just look at the schedule, what's wrapping production and what's starting production and what's going to go where, we're literally going to be jumping Marvel Star Wars, Marvel Star Wars, Marvel Star Wars forever. From this point on out, there's not going to be weeks, maybe a week between some shows, but they're going to start alternating, and I won't be shocked if we start getting like 2 episodes a week from some of them, because they're getting there with how much they're producing. So,
well, it depends if Star Wars, falls flat on its face again.
Well, don't worry, because we know by now Mandalorian will be on season 7 and Cassian Andor will still be shooting.
It's true.
Jesus, that show's taken forever.
Maybe Obi-Wan would have just have wrapped at that point.
Insane. But, so Marvel Animation, get excited, people. Get real excited.